The initial idea of this show was nothing like what we got. Yeah, I'm sure Netflix doesn't want me saying this, but I will say this very candidly. We did not know what we were doing.
I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, between and the current humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Rest in peace, Bernie. But I just want to talk about what's really important. What's really on my mind. Bert Kreischer.
Porcelain.
Yeah, I'm a bandwagon bitch. A day late, 73 patrons short, what can I say? But I already lost a precious 2.5 hours of my life weeks ago watching The Cabin with Bert Kreischer, so the least I could do is spend more time making a video complaining about it for those sweet, sweet views. The Cabin with Bert Kreischer is a 5-episode Netflix series that debuted on October 13th, 2020. It stars Bert Kreischer and every one of Joe Rogan's Bert Kreischer's friends, willing to show up and collect a paycheck. I want to briefly go over each episode to really paint the picture of why this show annoys me so much, and why I think it's problematic. There's a lot to cover, so let's not waste any more time, suit ourselves up, and jump around. Oh, sorry about that. Hello, cum in my throat. Here, let me just get that off the screen for you. Yeah, that's better. There we go. Let's get into it.
What part of your heritage defines your sense of humor?
First episode is called Mind, Body, and Soul, and by its first frame, you could tell this is gonna suck. Look at the confused look on Man 1's face. He's truly puzzled by Man 2's willingness to really do anything for fame. But this one's my favorite episode because Bert manages to keep his shirt on the whole time, but that doesn't last beyond this first outing. Check out this sweet intro too, where Bert talks about just how busy his days are, between sitting on his ass talking to people, drinking, and pretending to exercise. Bert decides he needs a break from all the craziness, and decides to flee to a cabin in the woods, a plan his wife had no idea about.
So, you're not gonna like how this sounds, but I've decided to turn this a little bit into a TV show.
Turning what into a TV show, exactly?
Hear me out, okay?
This is where the cracks in the show's foundation start to show. This is apparently a reality show. Scattered throughout these episodes are these painfully rehearsed FaceTime calls between Bert and his wife, and I'm left to wonder whether Bert Kreischer genuinely thinks his audience is retarded. I mean, you tell me, do you believe these interactions are real?
So I figured if I sprinkle in just a tidbit of work, then I can find the balance, and that is what this show is about.
I think the show may be about Bert Kreischer losing his marriage.
That could be a good show, too.
Why include this shit? There are also these asshole puckering quotes that transition us between shots as if Bert's new show is actually looking to inspire its viewers. It's very Rogan-esque, but no more endearing than Jocko Willink's black and white pieces of go-get-em garbage. You should know at this point that Bert Kreischer isn't capable of producing anything without the help of his friends. So Joey Diaz and Tom Segura are there too. They cook an emu, another fat guy shows up, some liberal arts student places Chaos Emeralds on Bert, and then they smoke a blunt in the span of 21 minutes, leaving barely any time to have an actual conversation like, Bert's capable of doing on one of his many podcasts. We end the show with another stellar FaceTime call where Bert's like, he's totally stoned, he's zooted.
Hey.
How are you doing?
What?
How are you doing?
I am perfect.
Remember how I said this is my favorite episode? Well, if you weren't entertained by that, buckle up, Buttercup, because it only goes downhill from here.
Do you want me to put the jet on the...
I thought you were going to ask if you wanted a hand job.
As we begin episode 2, the theme of the show becomes apparent. Bert's asshole. Not even 30 seconds into the episode and we get a close-up shot of Bert Kreischer's uncensored balloon knot and nutsack. It's just what I've always wanted. And by the way, this show totally isn't scripted. That's why Bert decides to show his dingleberry-laden ass crack to Nikki Glazer the second she walks in the door. Hashtag me too. Am I right, ladies? I get that pointing out how fake these interactions are is just as retarded as the people who actually believe this shit is real. But why present it as reality TV and have all these wacky, goofy antics if even by Bert's own admission, the best part of his show is just sitting down podcast style and having a conversation?
Despite
how silly or ridiculous the activity was, we always ended up stopping and just talking, which made this like such a seamless, fun day.
Oh, yeah. And this person is here too for some reason. Caitlyn. Sorry, I don't want to mix that up. I still have hopes of visiting Canada someday. Caitlyn Jenner just kinda shows up. Doesn't really make sense why, but Bert wants Twitter followers, so she's there.
You have 10 million followers? Put these down, let's get our phones out and send out a fucking tweet.
You know, I have no authority, so I can't definitively say this is the worst episode of the bunch, but it is certainly the most tone-deaf. 1 second, Bert is talking about the struggles of growing up gay with this lady, asking Caitlyn about the difference between gender and sexuality, and then the next second, Bert is getting his muddy asshole blasted by a hose.
Being trans has nothing to do with sexuality. It has everything to do with identity. And too many people think of it as you're gay.
They throw axes, shoot arrows at Bert, and then watch in awe as Bert's 70-year-old Florida man father refrains from calling Caitlyn a real man's man over FaceTime. This is the only part of the show I genuinely pray isn't real, because Bert then cries after his dad labels vehicular manslaughter Jenner a real hero.
My dad said, "You're a real hero." I've never heard him talk like that about anybody, ever, in my whole life. I've never heard him say that. It just caught me off guard.
Who would have guessed that showing his bare asshole 3 times in 26 minutes would be the least embarrassing part of this episode? Another fake FaceTime call to wrap it all up, and we're on to episode 3.
You like it? You like it? You like it?
Let me squeeze.
Now let me ask you, would you believe me if I told you this episode also starts with a naked Bert Kreischer? Oh, you would? Well, you're right, it does. But this time it's a 2-for-1 deal, because Bobby Lee shows up to slide Bert's man-meat comfortably between his cheeks in another desperate plea for laughter. It's almost like I don't have to go over each episode in such detail, because you're starting to get a clear image of what this show is all about. I can't even count the number of times Bert and Bobby waddle around in the nude for this one. Donnell Rawlings is also there.
Nigga!
I don't have a problem with Donnell. He's got that lovable retard kind of charm about him. But this show does everything in its power to make the other comedians look just as embarrassingly desperate as Bert.
1, 2, 3.
I want to know. No, I need to know. Which producer thought it was a good idea to have a black man smash watermelons with a sledgehammer? Kudos to you, because it's the hardest I laughed watching this show. But what was the point of that? The name of the episode is Release, so I guess it has something to do with letting go of what you desire most? Shit, I don't know. He shamelessly puts his kids in this episode too, because it's always a good idea to put fame and a cheap laugh above the needs of your children to grow up in a normal, healthy environment.
You stink up the whole room when you walk in it, and it's really bad.
All right.
So, in closing, Bert gets naked, shoves coffee up his ass, gets naked again, then sits in a hot tub naked with his friends. Wait, I thought that was the last episode. I'm losing track at this point.
I feel cleansed. Do you feel cleansed? A little bit. I feel great.
Nothing worked out smoothly at all, and I feel like I learned more by failing.
He's naked again. Laugh.
What, the rest of your dick on layaway?
Miss Pat's there, the chick from the Big Bang Theory for some reason, and the only man with faker hair than Jim Jeffries. They bang on pots and pans, go fishing but not really, pretend to lose the keys to their truck, and after a quick fake FaceTime call with Gabriel Iglesias, they head back to the cabin to talk more about nothing. I really don't have much to say about this episode, so I'll just point out a couple things about the show in general that bother me here. So because Miss Pat is morbidly obese, the plans to go fishing fall through, once again illustrating why the activities for the show are just tacked on afterthoughts, because most people actually enjoyed this episode anyway. It's a problem when your big budget Netflix show is only captivating to your audience when it emulates what you already do on your podcast. So, why did they make this show?
You know, it's money's money.
It sure is, Voss. It sure is. Here's another thing that bothers me. Not specifically about this show, but about the retarded producers at Netflix and in Hollywood in general. Why put this grainy, static, we're on the interwebs effect on every FaceTime call? I mean, Bert's audience knows what FaceTime looks like. They know what a podcast looks like. It's fucking 2021. Nothing on the internet has looked like this since 2004. It's so beyond stupid, especially for a show about a man who makes his living on the internet. It just reminds you that there are 50 overpaid, out-of-touch fossils behind the scenes putting together this shit show with what they think the kids will like. Bert also brings up Sober October because he still thinks living a healthy lifestyle for a month out of the year is something to be proud of.
Me, Rogan, Segura do a thing called Sober October. And we did it because I was drinking too much.
What is your definition of too much?
You know.
Till he fall the fuck out.
Yeah.
So that's about it for this one. Honestly, just more of the same. Which mercifully brings us to our final episode.
I'm nervous about going back out on the road and how much weight I'm going to gain.
The formula is pretty clear at this point. You know how the episode starts. Who are our guests for this final send-off? Well, we get Big J, who's credited as appearing on, This Isn't Happening. Couldn't have credited Jay for anything else? He had to dress like a walking billboard just to get some publicity for his shows? I guess whatever floats your boat, birdie boy. This is just such an odd combination of guests because Big J is there, so you'd assume maybe Lewis and Dave would be there to accompany him, but no. Instead, it's Big J and two guys from ABC's sitcom Blackish. Because, you know, these three have a lot in common.
Hilarious.
I have a package of grape Kool-Aid from Air Force 2. I was like, oh shit.
First trip to the White House, you stole some bathroom tiles and brought them back to me because they had the White House seal on them. And that was like everything.
Big J just looks so disinterested and uncomfortable throughout the whole episode. Like he's finally realized why the other two members of Legion of Skanks wanted no part of this project. So they spit on Bert, get a massage, play with bees, and then shoot Bert with paintball guns.
You get this crew for our marksmanship?
And again, I'm left wondering, why do this? I guess like the title of the episode says, no pain, no gain, but the only one in pain here is Big J. I feel bad for the guy, even if he does roll up his pant leg. Seriously, why was this made? Was it really just to end the show with a bust-sized advertisement for Bert's stand-up tour? Wait a second, which tour was that again? Oh, the Hot Summer Night Tour of 2020. A tour that already passed by the time this show was released. It's almost like it's a game at Netflix headquarters to see just how much money they can waste greenlighting garbage.
Netflix, you're greenlit. Who am I speaking with?
So yeah, that's The Cabin with Bert Kreischer. I think this series was originally supposed to be a 6-episode run because there's a couple of names mentioned in the advertising that never appear on the show. But one of its guest stars went and, groomed a few underage girls, so I guess Leah Remini and Whitney Cummings had their episode cut. Cancel culture, am I right? What a terrible, terrible way to represent your podcast pals on Netflix's big screen. I know Bert has a history of terrible watch me torture myself for your amusement type reality shows, but at this point in his career you'd think he'd be past that phase. Instead of, say, a podcast where Bert talks to the same group of comedians, we get zany activities broken up by discussions about gender identity and the struggles of black men in America, all masked in the veil of reality TV. It's such a weird juxtaposition of gross-out humor mixed with what is supposed to be serious political discourse and earnest self-reflection, I think. I just don't see who the audience for this is. The show tries, but it's not funny and it's not thought-provoking. Are gross-out comedies still even popular? Is The Hangover 4 coming out this winter? Shows like this aren't just stop thinking, start drooling entertainment. They're not just unfunny. They're a problem.
What do you mean?
You'll see, counselor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next comedian is one of my comedic heroes. He is the reason I do stand-up. He is the reason I've been writing movies that have never been made, but I love his movies. I love everything about this guy. Okay. Without further ado, the guy that defined all our personalities, Adam Sandler.
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
Yes, Adam Sandler is one of Bert Kreischer's heroes. Adam Sandler has a history of creating awful high-budget movies where the movies themselves don't cost a lot of money to make, but every single one of Sandler's friends are in them, and they don't work for cheap. So low-cost productions like The Do-Over are given multi-million-dollar budgets so Sandler's friends can continue to line their pockets. Reminds me a lot of this show. Netflix isn't forced to release their financial information, so I'd like to speculate a little, if you'll allow me. According to a Netflix insider, its cheapest show cost roughly $3.8 million per episode to produce in 2013. If we factor in inflation, that means Netflix's cheapest production cost roughly $4.2 million per episode in 2020. That means a 5-episode show like The Cabin with Bert Kreischer costs about $21 million to produce, not including the cost of the scrapped episode with Chris D'Elia. And for what? To cover the cost of bees and the coffee Bert funneled into his ass? No, I have a sneaking suspicion most of that money went to Bert and his friends.
I watched my black friend spit on this white guy, then I shot him. And they gave us a check.
If people continue to eat up shit like this, we can look forward to all sorts of low-effort shows from each of Joe Rogan's podcasting pals. Keep an eye out for hits like this coming to Netflix within the year. The Download down there. Pretending to be Italian with Big Joey D. And my personal favorite, Kimchi with the potpourri. But no one's gonna listen to me. I'm just a fat loser on the internet. And it seems like I'm already too late because Bert's set to produce a full-length movie based on his one bit starring Luke Skywalker himself playing Bert's daddy. I wonder if he'll protect himself from Russia's icy tundra by taking shelter inside Bert's stomach.
Cold and filled with the damp, ambiguous shapes of things you'd hope were forgotten.
Don't do it, Mark. There's still plenty of money and pride in voicing the Joker. You're a dignified man. So, yeah. Bert Kreischer produced something awful. Color me shocked. I don't have a way to end this, but it's not about the destination, my friends. It's about the journey. Glad I could waste your time.